Today's video is brought to you by Star Wars Outlaws. Will these Marvel post-credit scenes ever pay off? Welcome back to Nerdist News, I'm Dan Casey, and today we're going to look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, specifically the MCU's mid- and post-credit scenes that are still waiting for a major payoff.
Hang on.
With Avengers Doomsday introducing Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, and Avengers Secret Wars threatening to destroy the MCU's multiverse as we know it, the MCU's time could be limited. We may never get the answers we seek. So we've been keeping track of all these lingering plot lines, and together we're going to figure out which ones will propel us into the future, and which ones won't.
No more.
Now, if you prefer to read all about it, Michael Walsh has you covered over on Nerdist. And with that said, we are going to discuss the most recent MCU entry, Deadpool and Wolverine. So if you haven't seen it yet and you're worried about very specific spoilers for the very end of the movie, well, leave now before it's too late.
Whoa.
Okay, let's get into it, shall we? Let's start by laying out a few ground rules. Not every mid- and post-credit scene needs to lead to something bigger, but connectivity to a larger story is the intention behind many of them. And those are the ones we're going to focus on because in some cases, we've been waiting nearly a decade to get answers. Now, there are exceptions to this criteria, like say Black Panther Wakanda Forever. In that movie's post-credit scene, we meet Toussaint. He is the secret son of Nakia and the late T'Challa. Now, some people saw this as a tease for a future Black Panther 3. We saw it more as the filmmakers giving closure to these characters. So your mileage may vary, but that's how we're viewing these. So without further ado, let's begin way back in 2016 with Doctor Strange. In that movie's second post-credit scene, we see the disillusioned sorcerer Carl Mordo. Carl. Disillusioned by seeing his fellow sorcerers break the laws of nature and use dark magic, he begins a violent quest to steal the magical ability of those he deems unworthy. So, are there still too many sorcerers? We haven't seen Mordo in a while, so who can say? But we actually almost did. According to Sam Raimi, director of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Mordo was supposed to appear in that movie and battle Scarlet Witch trying to take her powers away, getting himself killed in the process. Now, fortunately, or unfortunately, that scene wound up on the cutting room floor, which means we could potentially see old Carl return in a potential Doctor Strange 3 if that movie ever happens. But speaking of which, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness did end with the sudden appearance of Clea, the purple-clad sorceress and human niece of Dormammu. Humanoid. Let's split the difference. She tells Doctor Strange that he caused an incursion event and opens a portal to the dark dimension through which they walk. Fan theories about Doctor Strange being the MCU's anchor being aside, he's proven that he is crucial in all things multiverse related thus far, so we will probably get some resolution here, just not anytime soon. Moving on, we come to Spider-Man Homecoming, in which the extremely in-jail Vulture, Adrian Toomes, has an encounter with fellow inmate Mac Gargan. Better known as the Scorpion, Mac says he has friends looking to kill Spider-Man and asks for information about his real identity, which Adrian declines to give him. But speaking of those friends, does this mean the Sinister Six could come to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, yes and no. I mean, they basically already did in Spider-Man No Way Home, but that didn't involve Vulture or Scorpion. Rather, Michael Keaton's Vulture character appeared in the post-credit scene of Morbius, which exists in the SSU, Sony Spider-Man universe, formerly called the SPUMC, Sony Pictures Universe of Marvel Characters. That is a real acronym. But the question is, would a movie like that actually include a single person named Spider-Man? Only one person knows for certain.
No, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited.
Her web connects us all. Now, speaking of Sony's deeply strange cinematic universe, the post-credit scene of Venom Let There Be Carnage, or Venom LTBC, as us certified goo boys call it, ties directly into one of the MCU's biggest dangling threads in Spider-Man No Way Home. In Let There Be Carnage, Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote accidentally get transported to the MCU, likely as a result of Peter Parker interrupting Doctor Strange's spell in No Way Home. Now, in the post-credit scene of No Way Home, Eddie Brock gets magically transported back to his own universe by Doctor Strange, but he leaves something behind. Something gooey. A bit of the Venom symbiote, an unidentified phenomenon. Could this be Marvel Studios giving themselves a way to give Tom Holland a symbiote suit in the eventual Spider-Man 4? I mean, maybe? Just like the Dark Phoenix saga, it's a story that for some reason Marvel can't resist telling over and over again. But as for audiences, well, they're basically Bonesaw.
Bonesaw is ready!
Next up, we come to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, a movie that gave us 2 post-credit scenes which have yet to resolve. The first has Wong, Shang-Chi, and Katie meeting with holograms of Bruce Banner and Carol Danvers to discuss the origins of the Ten Rings, which are acting as some sort of beacon sending a message somewhere out there in the universe. Are they calling the McLuhans? Is it acting as a beacon to the multiverse that we don't know about? Well, thankfully we are getting a Shang-Chi-quel, and hopefully that will give us more answers about magical bangles than the Marvels did. And speaking of the Marvels real quick, that movie ended with Monica Rambeau trapped in a parallel universe after crossing through a rift in the space-time continuum into a world full of X-Men and her very much alive superpowered mother. Now, given that we are heading towards Secret Wars through all of these disparate realities converging on each other, we feel confident saying this is probably going to pay off at some point, but we'll see. Now, where was I? Oh yes, Shang-Chi's second post-credit scene, in which Shang-Chi's sister Xia Ling takes over the Ten Rings organization. Now, the movie teased the Ten Rings will return, and then rumors began swirling about a Disney Plus series focused on the Ten Rings. While that spin-off is probably unlikely at this point, they could play a role in something like Armor Wars because of their connection to Tony Stark, who built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
With a box of scraps!
I used to be better at that. Man, it's been too long. Next up, we have Eternals, another movie with 2 unresolved post-credit scenes. The first saw Makkari, Droog, and Thena in space on the hunt for their friends who were abducted by the celestial Arishem. Instead, they're greeted by an even stranger sight, Thanos' brother Eros and a weird little guy named Pip, who both claim to know where their friends are.
We know where to find them.
Now, sadly, it's unlikely this will lead anywhere beyond getting jump scared by Harry Styles and Patton Oswalt, because Marvel head honcho Kevin Feige confirmed there are no immediate plans for Eternals. Now, elements of that movie, like the giant petrified corpse of Tiamat, will be addressed in other projects and not just in the corner of an episode of She-Hulk. Now, as for the other Eternals post-credit scene, Kit Harington's hapless historian Dane Whitman opens a case containing a cursed magical sword, the Ebony Blade. But he's met with another blade, Mahershala Ali's new version of the Daywalker, conveniently off-screen.
Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?
Now, the implication is that Whitman could become his comic book alter ego, the Black Knight, and join forces with Blade in the future. I say potentially in the heaviest quotes possible, because the Blade movie was announced back in 2019 with Mahershala Ali, and it's since languished in development hell with no signs of escaping anytime soon. It's Blade! Just let Mahershala Ali kill vampires! I will see that! Now, as for Kit Harington, he isn't optimistic either. Speaking with GQ, he said, "I'm not gonna pretend I took the role in Eternals because it was different and interesting. If Marvel calls, you gotta do it." But moving on, and staying in the MCU's version of London for a moment, Moon Knight. In the Disney Plus series post-credit scene, they revealed a side of Stephen Grant that many people have been waiting for all season long. In the comics, Moon Knight has 3 primary alters: Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, and Jake Lockley. However, in the show, we really only saw Stephen and Mark take center stage. While the devious deity Khonshu released Mark and Stephen from his service, he didn't have the same arrangement with Jake, a deadly alter capable of profound acts of violence. To wit, Khonshu as Jake execute Arthur Harrow, closing the book on Ethan Hawke's character but raising major questions for a potential season 2. And speaking of which, Oscar Isaac and director Mohamed Diab did tease season 2 way back in 2022 on TikTok. Anything's possible, but the landscape of the MCU has certainly shifted in that time, and Marvel Studios are now making fewer movies and TV shows than they were back then. But if nothing else, you can always watch Matt Caron's Nerdist remix of Moon Knight at the Museum and fill that lunar void in your heart. Moving on, we come to Thor: Love and Thunder, which gave us a peek at Hercules, played by Ted Lasso's Brett Goldstein. The implication seemed to be that the muscle-bound son of Zeus would be at odds with Thor in a 5th cinematic outing, but first they need to convince Chris Hemsworth to put down the motorcycle chariot and pick up the hammer again. Now, speaking of characters we'll probably never ever see again, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania gave us a sequence with the Council of Kangs, all of whom likely died off-screen on their way back to their home planet. Next up, we come to The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Remember that show? A Simpler Time. It ended with Sharon Carter revealing herself as the mysterious power broker. Finally pardoned by the government after Civil War, she's now leveraging her newfound access to cut even shadier deals with her allies back in Madripoor. But could she also be working with someone like Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine on something like the Thunderbolt Initiative? Who knows? After that, we have She-Hulk, which saw Wong breaking Emil Blonsky, the Abomination, out of prison to come live at Comertage. So, this is just a fun one. Unless we get like a Wong and Madison series, this probably won't come into play again, but hey, it's unresolved, technically.
At first it was fun, then scary, then fun again, then spooky, but in a fun way.
And last but not least, we have Deadpool and Wolverine. Like Reed Richards, who did not appear in this movie, this is admittedly a bit of a stretch. After carving a bloody swath through the Fox Marvel Universe, the Deadpool Corps, and Cassandra Nova, Wade Wilson and his universe-hopping hijinks culminated with the real reason Johnny Storm did some involuntary Attack on Titan cosplay. Now, the reason we mention this isn't to celebrate Chris Evans rattling off that insanely foul-mouthed monologue, rather it's to note that Gambit can seemingly be seen alive and well on one of the TVA's monitors. So what does this mean for the card-carrying Cajun? Is he, woo, about to make a name for myself here again? Speaking with Collider's Perry Nemiroff, Channing Tatum said that, I think at that moment, if I had to guess, he's definitely still in the void. But there's something that's happening in that moment that maybe no one knows yet. And that thing is his name, Jeff.
My name is Jeff.
And there you have it, folks. That is every post-credit scene in the MCU that's still awaiting a payoff. If you want to delve even deeper into all things Marvel, we've got you covered over on Nerdist. But first, thank you again to Star Wars Outlaws for sponsoring today's video. Get ready to experience the galaxy far, far away in a brand new way in Ubisoft's Star Wars Outlaws. The first ever open-world Star Wars game puts you in the shoes of Kay Vess, a scoundrel seeking freedom, fame, and fortune on the edges of the Empire. Set between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, Star Wars Outlaws lets you fight, steal, and outwit your way through the galaxy's most dangerous crime syndicates as you undertake high-stakes missions that take you into hives of scum and villainy unlike anything you've seen before. So jump into the pilot seat of your trusty ship, the Trailblazer, and get ready to punch it as Star Wars Outlaws blasts off onto Xbox Series X and S, PS5, and PC on August 30th. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to brush up on how to cheat at Sabacc without getting caught. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. For now, though, tell us, what do you think? Which MCU post-credit scene do you most want to see pay off in the future? Can you think of any that we missed? I hope not. Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist.com.